as we go to our next match of Wildblood versus AOD training grounds. There's going to be White Elk Fort with AOD on the defense here. Ugh. Let's look at the unit comps here. Nothing looking too incredibly out of the ordinary. Fair amount of specials, fair amount of infantry, lost burns. No, very lacking of stalwarts by both teams. I do see that these stalwarts are kind of running out of the rotation here. I do enjoy that. Let's go over AOD. Looks like a fairly normal comp. I'm not seeing anything crazy by either team. Nothing that stands out by either team composition wise. Looking fairly normal. We'll see how they perform here. AOD on the defense, WB on the attack, Wildblood on the attack, White Elk Fort. So we go in here. Wildblood actually setting up on the left side of the map. This is something that isn't usually done by teams, so this is a very interesting play by them. Immediately breaking down this breach. Does look like AOD will not be in position to defend this. Probably realize that, hey, they're all on this side of the map. Let's get over here, rotate fast. They do have two people on the far side of the map. Let's increase minimap. Get that in as Wildblood immediately breaks the breach. Does find the musket just out of position. Immediately gets him down. Unfortunately, he just looked like he was a little at the wrong place, wrong time. AOD heavy. A flaming comet, but only one flaming comet to try to stop the Wildblood from getting into here. As go in, this tree is going to block my field of view, unfortunately. As now Wildblood goes into right over there. Get into this engagement here as the engage goes on. Double sound buff goes out. It does look like Wildblood is very heavy pushing into AOD. Looking kind of rough for AOD here. This on the supply bot does look like AOD is going back for more units. Looking like they're kind of losing this infantry very hard. Wildblood are kind of rolling through AOD. They just do not have anything here as Wildblood just runs straight through. Wasn't even close. As AOD will now be on the heavy back foot here as Wildblood gets the supply and gets a point. AOD already at home and there's still a ton of time remaining. AOD having a lot. Did anyone on Wildblood ever die there? No. We do have one person on Wildblood did go down there, but just didn't seem like it was enough. As we go into keep going into this Wildblood playing at a time. Where will they go here? It does look like we are rotating to the right. They're going through a back say not going the traditional way. Most people go, actually no, I think this is a traditional way, going from this breach side. Well, good job here. AOD placing their own flaming comets to break the barrier so that they can reinforce the supply. Great job by AOD realizing that, hey, we need to be able to resupply this fight. I think I would have liked to see the flaming comet maybe positioned to shoot, I don't know, towards Wildblood, but that's okay, I guess. Oh, flames a little bit far forward, does get musket bombed. Does look like they actually live through the musket bombing, so they will live through that as they now chase down. AOD chases down a Wildblood. Flames now doing big damage into this blob. AOD pushing heavy in to Wildblood as the fire rages on. Doesn't look, but Wildblood has the cav that comes in and cleans up all of AOD's units. Looking very rough. We just still have these stalwarts back here guarding from these Modella and the red pikes. Does look like AOD will be able to get the double pull though. It look like any of Wild Blood is on the supply, so AODs will be able to get some more units. The Sword tries to get on, but does look like AOD was able to get him to not be able to get on the point there. I just realized we have Billman. An interesting choice bringing Billman onto the field, but then AOD looking really rough here. They do not have the infantry to hold the supply. Wildblood has heavy Spartans. They still have 4 Spartans that are going to run straight through this. AOD trying to try to go LD out in there. Doesn't look like I finds a kill there. 12.5 minutes of clock. Plenty of time for Wildblood to really do a little bit of artillery phase, but it doesn't look like they will be doing artillery phase. A lot of AOD going down there on 13 people alive. As does look like Wildblood will be resetting. They're gonna wait, regroup, pull some new units, and go back in later. Doing an artillery phase, plenty of artillery going down here. Wildblood. AOD has 6 artillery left. Let's look at how many units are remaining on each side. Does look like AOD has 300 green. Figure it out. 300 greens remaining, looking very low on golds and purples. This will probably hurt them drastically when we go into these later engagements here, where Wildblood still has plenty of their Spartans and Modal remaining. Plenty of stuff to be doing. Really anything that they want to be doing. As they transition into this artillery phase, it does look like AOD tries to find some kills there. Actually, let's look at deaths real quick. We did have quite a few high action fights there, so AOD is probably do have only one person on their final life, where Wildblood is also one person on their final life. So it's fairly even lives wise. I do believe that AOD probably did die in general more, as we do have DBs. Hold on. This is more interesting than anything else that's happening. Let's look at the DB's brawl here. So we go. And the DB is throwing their bombs, doing great things, storing bombs, spamming shurikens, just being a general nuisance to Wildblood, as they should have. Also, they almost got friendly more. Oh, did not. And Wildblood DB did not find the AOD DB. Also, I zoomed out. Bastards. Musket may be out of position by Wildblood. Does manage to escape as AOD has their longbow trying to find something of value, but there's just so many Spartans blocking any arrow that could potentially ever get to them. As unfortunately it will not be able to find anything there. It does look like Wildblood's actually initiating push. Unfortunately there's a tree in my way, so it's going to be very hard for me to get in here and see exactly what will be happening. As now the fire rages on. Wildblood runs in, does a little bit of an early Doppelsnaughter debuff. Maybe that gets those units that will run into the circle, but I don't think it will be able to get into the circle as they go in here, doing great damage. Trying to figure out how to very spread out fire. AOD very spread here as Wildblood pushes out. They do hit. AOD places 2 flaming comets to try to get some value there, but they do lose one right away by the Bastard Sword diving into them. It's looking like AOD is losing this infantry fight very heavily. The Spartans by Wildblood just doing heavy damage, clearing a lot of this point here. Do have some AFK but out at the back there, but AOD doing great work, trying to their best to hold on as long as possible. They do have the Leos get into the fray, but unfortunately those Spartans are walking, so they CC the Liaos and the Modal are catching them as well. We have another set of Liaos, and it does look like AOD's Liaos will be able to clear the point as Wildblood tries to get their own cav in there. It does look like the cav does trade evenly into itself. There are no more cavalry remaining. The infantry fighting infantry still fighting. Wildblood sending the Rafratan round shields into the Modal. It looks like the round shields will be able to destroy those Modal, as Wildblood still sending this infantry, and very heavily in favor of Wildblood, having a lot of infantry left. AOD just does not have a presence on this point anymore. All their infantry is gone. They are going to have to frantically muster in here. They're actually pretty empty by both sides here. cleanups happening. Cav coming in, trying to clear up this point as the Cav meets into the Liaos, into the Claymores, into everything. So it does look like AOD is able to slowly bring this back into their favor. They do have 2 Spartans going into their Medails at the back of the temple there. But it does look like they were able to regain some foothold here, but Wildblood was able to regroup, get another good rotation of units in as they push right back on to this point. Stalwarts braced on point. Will be able to get much value as the DB is poking them down. Unfortunately, Stalwarts gave the value they would like to as they start getting hit by the Arbalest. Cav comes in, cleans up a lot of it. Raton's trying to hold the point. 7.5 minutes left on the clock. AOD down to 200 units versus Wildblood 600. It's going to be very hard for AOD to hold for these 7.5 minutes that is on the clock here. Trying their hardest to hold on. Doing a really good job of stalling here, but Wildblood's heavy infantry. They got their Spartans back onto this point. They got the Raton Vipers. They got the Demence Arbalists. They got their own Raton Pikes as well as heavily go through everything here. They even have grape shots that I couldn't see because the damn trees. AOD bringing Iron Cap archers. Get some poke damage in there. Trap coming in on the temple side. Doesn't look like it will be connecting with the Iron Cap archers. It's now Wildblood capturing the point 80%, and it will be going in favor of Wildblood. Oh. Amazing plays by Wildblood there. 200 unit kills, 194. We'll round it up to 200. Amazing job by Casper here doing 200 unit kills there. Damn great job. Let's go to the post-battle stats. Here's some stats for nerds. Hold on, let me look at numbers. Hero damage is all I'd look at. Anyways. As we go over stats for nerds, looking like Wildblood is averaging around that 350 mark. No one's really high. Maybe they're just around that 300,000 damage mark. By heroes, we go over to AOD, where here are stats for nerds. If you love stats, look at these stats. Beautiful stats. Look like AOD just didn't have the damage hovering around that 200,000 mark. That it looks like the DBs and the muskets try to bring it up. They do have some people up there, but a little bit just less damage there by their heroes. Post-battle analysis. Here's a chart. As you can see by this chart, AOD just heavy. Yes, AOD is training grounds. Training grounds heavily loses these first 2 fights. I think this was just a I understand the first fight they just were not prepared for that kind of breach push. I don't think any teams really do this. This is an amazing play by Wildblood here as we go into our post-battle analysis, our post-battle. So we go into that. It was just amazing plays by Wildblood, bringing a tactic that I don't think AOD was prepared for. Not many people ever go through that supply. It was definitely a play that they just were not prepared for, and it just happens. You know, you're not prepared for that kind of push, and you're just getting ran through. It's unfortunate, but it's just kind of what happens. First, let me go into post-battle analysis here as we go in. Bang. Bang. Whoops. Bang. As we go in, let's watch over this fight one more time to see exactly what went wrong by AOD. And I don't think they did anything wrong. I think this is just that you're never prepared for this. Like, whoever pushes this breach, composition wise, it looks like it's fine, but obviously Wildblood just did something a little right, having all those Spartans ready. Also losing a musket there by AOD so early does definitely suck. Breach went down. Who invited me? Oh, fucking guy invited me to a duel. Musket just out of position, realizes the breach is going. He was just out of position, caught with his pants down on the breach wall. Breach went down, he went down. DB kills him. Unfortunate there. Great comment by AOD, tries to get some value there, but Wildblood already moved past there. As you can see by how this pivot is happening. AOD is getting to this point, but they just don't have the units really here. They do have a stalwart, but they're just, none of their units are really in position to be holding this supply. Good job by Fuka going in and distracting AOD here. As we see the fight rages on, you can kind of see it just by unit composition. AOD has stalwarts at Fort Braccio compared to Wildblood just has so many Spartans. I have so many Spartans, and while AOD just does not have any damage that can deal with the heavy Spartan push that is being had here. It was just an amazing amount of Spartans, and AOD did not have the response for it. And they just got walked right over. Very quick, very clean. As we go into it, second fight. Just call with the pants down. What can you do? Second fight, however. AOD now really prepared here for this secondary battle, breaking their own barricades so that they can reinforce this fight. Great job by them. So we go into the second fight. Trip comes in. This is where it gets a little bit dicey for AOD. You can see where this is just incredibly snaked. Let me bring out my drawing tool so that we can draw a little bit here. I love bringing out this damn drawing tool. Hold on, it's coming. There we go. As you can see by this, hold on. This snake. That is a snake. This is a really long snake where Wildblood is a lot more grouped. It just seems like AOD was just very dispersed. They do group up here as we go into this, but do group up here, but you can see they're still kind of spread out. They still have I think 3 or 4 people in the back there, maybe just a little bit overzealous, pushing into the cocoa that's on the floor. Impressive that the flames do not explode here with the cocoa throwing in there. Flames go in. You can see they're trying to hold. Also, they're bringing a lot more, 2, 3, and 3 Spartans and other things. They got the Claymore, they got flames, they got Claymore, they got cocoa, all this debuffing and buffing. But Wildblood just has 1 Claymore and a shit ton of Spartans, an absolute metric amount of Spartans, and the Spartans just do not care. And then the Cav comes in. AOD not getting any of their anti-Cav in this fight. You can see they started this fight, none of their anti-Cav was there. Maybe just a little bit too greedy, too fast to get in there. They just did not wait for their anti-Cav to get into the fight. You can see where Wildblood's Cav just kind of gets in there and they realize, hey, there's no anti-Cav in this blob. Let's get in there and clean up house. And AOD just didn't have their anti-Cav there. Rotating a little bit too slow. Now the AOD does do a great job here keeping this supply clean to pull new units, but you could see where Wildblood they just didn't lose any units to AOD's fight there. They just did not. They lost a few, but compared to AOD, just nothing happened. And it was just too unfortunate in favor of Wildblood. Yes, AOD now has this supply clear, and they could have pulled a unit by the time that they had it, but Wildblood is now snowballing with the momentum. They finally cleared it all. They're now coming to the supply. AOD realizes, hey, we can't defend this supply. Pulls off. We sell a Liao to make sure that we could get out of there, and we just full retreat back to the home point. Unfortunately, just did not have the units to really do a double pull. Even if they did fight there, they're running into Spartans, and you can see kind of how this home fight went. They just didn't have the units to really deal with Spartans. As you can see with this actual like home fight here, as once again we do the pushes again, Doppelsonder debuff going in. It does look like AOD are running a little bit heavier units, doing a lot more spread out, so Wildblood's Spartan spam is a little bit harder to get value with, but it is still Spartan spam and it still does get its value. Definitely looks like these Spartans were just a little bit too much for AOD to handle. As you can see already within this fight, drawing tool, Wildblood has taken over this point. They were initiated back here, and they already took plenty of space. Now AOD has a good hold back here, but there's no shields back here. It's very detrimental when you have no shields and the enemy has a lot of angry Spartans walking at you. Coin. Good. Value there. Do I have the password? No. Okay. Wait. No, I don't. Cool. I can see that the Spartans do eventually go down here. Amazing place by the Liao's by AOD. It does clean up all this Spartan walk, but even with them clean up the Spartan walk, Wildblood's own cav cleans up AOD's cav, and then Wildblood gets the Rattan round shields into the Modao, and that cav, that corner of anti-cav, you know, not having a shield there to soak for those rats, unfortunately just means that the rats will go through you. And you kind of see here as we're going to the end game, 800 units, 400 units, 8.5 minutes left. AOD just does not have the units. They hold on for dear life. Hold on as strong as they can. It just isn't enough as they get, well, obviously ran through by Spartans. They just were not prepared for Wildblood to be bringing this many Spartans. Well, Wildblood will win that. Amazing place by Wildblood getting in there and cleaning up the house.